Thanks for having us. I guess do we need to do anything? We're going to play a intro ad, right?
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be a short ad in the beginning. It'll play our intro music. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, Clint, and just kind of make it as if you're, part of the show. And then I'm going to do a light introduction for you, Dr. Shiva, and then have you introduce yourself to the audience and explain what it is you do and where you can find your work. And then, honestly, wherever the conversation organically goes from there. I don't know that you're familiar with our show. But just to give you a heads up, we kind of hang out in the fringes, as far as conspiratorial thinking. The show has a spiritual aspect to it, a supernatural aspect to it. So don't be too jarred if we drag you into strange waters, is all I'm saying. This might not be, we're probably going to touch on COVID, if you don't mind that as well. I think we'll have to change our YouTube parameters so that we're no longer on YouTube when that's happening. Either that or we'll risk it all. But other than that, I do anticipate dragging you into some weird places. So hopefully you look forward to it.
All right. Let's have fun.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
So I'll kick us out. We'll start the show and then do all that shit he said.
Welcome back to the show, guys. Before we start, a quick announcement. Top and I have teamed up with PurgeSuddenly.com to bring our listeners this awesome opportunity. From now until March 15th, any purchase of Nephilim Death Squad merch from TopLobster.com will enter you automatically into a raffle for a chance to win a triple pack of Purge Advanced Parasite Cleanse and a bottle of Digestimes Plus from PurgeSuddenly.com. What if I told you that more people have died from parasites than have died in war? What if I told you that cancer, acne rosacea, multiple sclerosis, and rheumatoid arthritis can all be treated with parasite medication? With the triple pack of Purge Advanced Parasite Cleanse, you can rid your own body of these all too common parasites with ingredients like zinc, carrot powder, garlic, black walnut. It's made from all natural ingredients, not harmful for your body. And on top of it, the Digestimes promote healthy gut bacteria and aid in digestion. While you're there, any of the other products, as well as the triple pack and the Digestimes, can be purchased with a promo code Nephilim, NEPHILIM, for 10% off, and be entered into this raffle to win a triple pack of Purge Advanced Parasite Cleanse and a bottle of Digestimes Plus from PurgeSuddenly.com. And guys, don't forget, if you're looking for other ways to support the show, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, and you can help us out that way as well. All right, let's get into the show.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers.
We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit. It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers take control of this now, and no one's talking about how they learn it's not a big slaves. And everybody's just walking around, out in the clouds, won't awaken to a dead in the grave. By then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up.
And most importantly, Tower Gang. And our guest today is a fellow New Jerseyan and inventor of email, Dr. Shiva. Dr. Shiva, can you tell the audience a little bit about what it is that you focus on and where they can find your work?
And so what part of New Jersey are you from, by the way? I didn't know you were from there.
I was born in Elizabeth, and so we were both from very fantastic neighborhoods. And I moved all over. So I lived in Edison, Woodbridge, Freehold, all the way up north to Highland Lakes, right there at the border where it meets, New York, so I lived up in the boonies. So a little bit everywhere.
Yeah, so I'm from Jersey too, and so to answer your question, what do I focus on? You know, I'm a systems scientist, and it's hard for people to appreciate what that is because they hear those words, which are used individually a lot, systems and science, and they think sort of they understand it, but it's a very, very deep science that really goes to the essence of the knowledge that people need to learn today. So if you go back about, 100 years ago or even 60 years ago, the elites used to make sure that people weren't fed proper nutrition, particularly in the ages, let's say 0 to 3. So you basically created dumb people and they could use them to do all sorts of menial labor that they needed. This was where the caste system really came from, let's say in places like India and other places. This was actually created because of the quality of food that you did not give people. And it took many, many years for people to realize that there's a particular period in your life that you need a certain amount of protein. So in India, for example, in the 60s, there was a guy who came from a civil rights reformer who came from the lower caste. And he said, look, my people aren't dumb. You just forcibly don't feed them food. And so he fought to make sure people got at least one good high protein meal, and you see a significant change. So why do I give that example? Because I was a product of that. My parents came from a caste system in India where they weren't supposed to be anything except picking coconuts, really. And every caste had a particular job. Now you go at something like the scumbag Vivek the Snake. He grew up in a caste system, and that's what he really is. I mean, the guy's a complete fucking crook. Everything, his entire life has been that, and anyone who supports him and gives any type of publicity to him should really wake the fuck up, because they're basically saying that I'm a house nigger, and they support their own slavery, because that's what he is. And most of these politicians running, that's who they are. But he grew up in an environment of one of the elite Brahmin castes, where these people just designated themselves like Zionists who said that they're the chosen people. So, my parents came out of that, and I am very, very, it's very personal to me because I fought that battle and I still continue to fight it. I went to an all Zionist school in New Jersey, Livingston, which you may know of. The last 3 years,
Yes.
Kushner's lived there, Christie's from there. So I grew up among these guys, and I competed with them, did better than them, and that really bugged them. But so I come from this world of wanting to understand systems. Now, if you transport that to today, we don't have, you could argue people are getting food. I mean, we could have a whole discussion on food and how fucked up the food system is.
Hey, Dr. Shiva,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question before I forget?
Yeah.
What's going on between Israel and India? It seems like the Indian people love Zionist Israel, and I can't
Not
quite
the
figure out.
non-Brahmins. The Brahmins do. Okay, so you have to distinguish it. There's 6 billion people in India. Only a small set of them are the Brahmin elites. And so I'll come to that, but because it's a really, really good question you're asking. Brahmanism equals Nazism equals Zionism. And we'll come back to that. But the bottom line is this: in today's world, in the 1950s and 60s, there was a real development to unravel some of the real fundamental issues of the universe. Natural laws, and there was this big contradiction with the second law of thermodynamics and Newton's law of mechanistic laws, and that resulted in a field called system science. And system science is the food for the brain that you need as much as you need proper nutrition for the physical body. So you have a vast majority of human beings who don't understand how systems work, and that's why you have grifters thinking Trump is some hero, all right? Or people thinking Booby fucking Kennedy's a hero, or they want to suck off Joe Rogan. All these guys are Zionist cocksuckers. And the grifters, that's who they are. And you can look at their history, because then you can apply a simple scientific litmus test. Everyone's quote unquote telling the truth these days. Truth doesn't matter if you tell the truth. Okay, a lot of academics tell the truth. They get academic positions, how fucked you are, and this is happening, that's happening. Truth is in some ways irrelevant if you don't the with two other essential ingredients. When did you tell the truth? Did you tell the truth at the right time when it fucking mattered? And are you telling the truth to immobilize people, to mobilize people, to shatter the swarm? And that's what I've been doing. So if you look at the legs of a stool, Yeah, fucker Carlson tells the truth all the time, but he's a fucking CIA operative. Anyone who can't see that needs to have their heads checked. Okay, the guy's been his head has been so deep up the Zionist cocksucking swarm's ass his entire life, and he comes from a history of Zionist cocksuckers. All right, suddenly he's acting anti-establishment, and every fucking grifter is chasing his ass. Kim Iverson, every goddamn person. The guy is the swarm, and he exists to fly trap people back to have, faith in them. Now, getting back to your question.
Wait, you know how I know you're right? Because we deal in the conspiracy realm very like Nephilim, aliens, shit like that. And Tucker Carlson came out a couple of months ago, and he was like, they're interdimensional, saying Alex Jones stuff, but he also did say like, I know more, but I just really can't say. So it's like telling the truth, but not quite.
It's called a limited hangout. It's a particular.
There we go. I was just going to say a limited hangout, but all while wearing his red Kabbalah bracelet.
Yeah, fucker Carlson, booby fucking Kennedy. These people are very dangerous human beings. They come from the deep state, and you have to look at their entire arc of their history. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Okay. But they have enough deception that they do to manipulate people. So if you look at every once in a while, an issue will come up. The issue of Zionism has been around for, a long time. In 1980s, this guy, Meir Kahane, came to Boston, one of the butcherers who worked with Ariel Sharon to butcher a lot of Palestinians. And the same movement that you see now, the same liberal Zionist movement, ceasefire now nonsense was going on then. The ceasefire now movement is owned and run by liberal Zionists. Ceasefire now means 2 steps forward for Israel, 1 step back, which means Israel keeps making 1 step forward. But all of those ceasefire now posters are run by one organization and controlled directly by Israel. It's not about ceasefire now, it's about end the occupation of the United States by Zionism. So now we need to understand, go back to your question, what is Zionism? What is Nazism? What is Brahmanism? They're the exact same political ideologies. And that political ideology is what will determine, everyone understanding that is what will determine whether we want to get off the plantation and, be a field slave or remain on the plantation. So what do I say this? If you go back to the caste system, the caste system originally was a concept of, we all worked hard. You became a carpenter, you became, Clint became let's say a good athlete, and I became a, scientist, and you became whatever, an actor, an artist, right? It was based on your merit, all right? Based on your skills, your application. Now, over time, somewhere along the way, someone decided, oh, I'm a doctor, my son gets to be a doctor. I'm a priest, my son gets to be a priest, okay? And they created some bullshit saying, oh, the gods said that the priesthood is the number one top caste, then the kings. They created this very hierarchical system, which was no longer based on merit about you working, but it was based on your birth lottery. You see what I'm saying? And it also said that the people on the top, the priesthood, the learned academics, were the chosen people, and they should tell everyone else what to do. That was Brahmanism. And in the 8th century to the 16th
it sounds like you're describing our current political system all the way down to the top of our like mainstream media, the highly paid people. And it makes a lot of sense as to why it is that way, because if they do put somebody like you in, you're not from the family, this thing collapses. Because in the end, the government really isn't anything besides like a facade, and also a facade of threat, right? So if they start putting in outsiders, that illusion that they've created, because I don't even think they can enact that much violence on the American people if there were some, we got to get this off YouTube, if there were some kind of uprising.
The observation you're making is very important. Look, the reality, this whole thing is driven by mind control, and it requires massive media manipulation, and it requires a core philosophy And the philosophy has to be ingrained into people that a few know better than you. When I did the swarm video, that's what it was trying to get across to people, right? That a small set of people, Hollywood, right? A few set of academics, a few elite people, they actually know better than you. And in a relentless way, every microsecond, this concept, trillions of dollars is spent on this to manipulate people to think this is right, that this is how it should be. And if you look at the current presidential election, I'm the only one who has the credentials and the, who comes bottoms up to be president. You can look at my entire history. 4 degrees from MIT, inventing things, creating email as a kid, a true American growing up here. How the fuck can you even compare that to Booby fucking Kennedy or Trump? These guys have never worked a day in their lives.
Dr. Shiva, I do have an important question. You brought up the inventing of email, which I think is tremendous, but how do you square the idea that had you not invented email, Hillary Clinton would have never been able to have found the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
A lot of this stuff.
I don't know even what that is, but I can tell you that.
Oh, wait. This is something that you're unfamiliar with. This is exciting.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about this. So there was these leaked emails. I believe it was the Podesta emails, and Hillary Clinton is.
We warned you we'd be getting weird. So
we're gonna drag you into a strange place.
Yeah.
This is my opportunity. Hillary Clinton. The emails were leaked. She's asking for the location of the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, right? This hero of a Sumerian epic, and the bodies of the buried Nephilim, meaning the children of the fallen angels and the and human women. And it was one of the many strange things to come out during the email scandal that happened when all of her emails leaked.
To be fair, she could be talking about fucking children. But for us, this raises a lot of flags, and it should for you as well, because you're asking the question, why not? Why can't I get in? And I can tell you why you can't get in. You don't have the right bloodline. That's all. That's like all this shit is about, man. So if you start to look into the bloodlines, which we believe go back to some ancient Nephilim stuff, that's who rules the world. If you're not in it, there's your answer.
You ever get that feeling that there's an elitism that goes beyond just a caste system that you've effectively lined out in India, but it's also one of those systems that if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? It's an ancient system, it's very effective, and they apply it, the elites that is, across many spectrums. Do you ever get the feeling that the reason that you're not in the club is something that exceeds even just sort of your surface level elitism and may go deeper into something like bloodlines?
Well, look, among the swarm, right? They have their own rituals. They have their own ethos. They have their own quote unquote spirituality, whatever it is, right? They create their own worlds. They have their own competitions, right? So if that's part of their ritual, that makes sense. But here, we're not here to compete with the swarm. We're not here to compete in their plantation. We're here to get off their plantation. So my running for president has no illusions that the fraud that they do to make sure people stay out is quite multi-layered, right? First of all, they make sure that you're not given visibility. Step one, right? That's the first level of fraud. Who even gets on the any visibility, right? So they take this fool Vivek the Snake overnight. They find him and he's promoted, right? Another brown-skinned guy who happens to repeat the stuff I'm saying. This is not happenstance or Obama, right? It is engineered. So that's one. The second level of deception, or the fraud that they do, is make sure you can't even get on the ballot legitimately, which we did do, and we kept doing. And when you overcome those two hindrances, then the third level is they suddenly cancel all the debates. There's no more debates. And then the last piece of the fraud that they do, which I was the one to uncover, was what they do with the machines and the signature verification, in our work. So they have 4 levels of deception. So obviously they do not want anyone like us in. But check this out. If I hadn't run in 2018 against Elizabeth Warren in 2020, we would have never exposed the backdoor portal into Twitter, right? Which is what we did in 2020, long before Twitter Files and Fucker Carlson did his limited hangout. Okay, it was us who exposed the fact that the machines have a weighted race feature. So by the fact that one of us participates and jumps in, which they do not expect, we're able to uncover things and bring it out to people and mobilize people in a way that has not been done. So that's a good thing. So
Dr.
now,
Shiva,
yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't you on? You were on tinfoil hat years before the 2020 election, saying that, right? Because that's when I first heard you.
yeah. I mean, look. So that's why I'm saying Fucker Carlson. I call him Fucker Carlson. Is that in 2020 when I ran for office? It's all, you can go to winbackfreedom.com. It's all there. You know, 500 million people know about this all over the world. When we ran, you know, on September of 2020, we were headed to win that election. 3,000 volunteers, 25,000 bumper stickers. We were everywhere. We raised $2 million on a Republican primary in Massachusetts, which is a pure blue state. The GOP colluded with the Democrats to flip votes. In the only county in Massachusetts, the all-white working class community of Franklin County, we won by 10 points, where all the ballots are hand counted primarily. In every other county was 60-40, 60-40, 60-40, to a guy who didn't even have one lawn sign up. And that's when I realized that election fraud takes place in the United States at that level. I filed the FOIA request to get the ballot images, the digital images that should be preserved. The Massachusetts government had deleted them, 1.5 million of them. I tweeted out on Twitter, Massachusetts deleted 1.5 ballot images that went viral. And then I get thrown off Twitter. First time I've ever been thrown off. I had to file the lawsuit in federal court because we were still running for Senate as a write-in candidate. And in those cross-examination hearings, it was myself and the judge who uncovered that the government of the United States and the government of every country has created a backdoor censorship portal into Twitter. We exposed that first. We got the preliminary injunction first. And Kennedy's people came to our thing and were taking crib notes. Same with the all the people in the Missouri versus Biden stuff. They were jealous that this guy exposed it. Why? Because we're not part of even their fake anti-establishment swarm. You follow what I'm saying? They didn't want to give any limelight to us. You can go look at winbackfreedom.com, the communications we sent to Glenn Greenwald and Fucker Carlson, who I've spoken to before. He did nothing. He intentionally concealed this lawsuit because it would give us limelight. We would be the heroes of the hour. They don't want to do that, even though we did the actual hard work. I mean, you cannot imagine that I filed those lawsuits by myself, and it was us against 7 lawyers, me against 7 lawyers. The head of Wilmer and Hale, which is Twitter's law firm, could not believe I did those lawsuits myself. She goes, these are too good. Okay? That's how good my lawsuits were. And anyway, in May of 2021, we uncovered all the playbooks, step-by-step detailed drawings, which Mike Benz, another operative, has stolen from me. And Fucker Carlson featured him. And every other fucking grifter promotes Mike Benz, knowing we were the ones who did it first. Why? Because they have to suck the Zionist cock of Fucker Carlson to keep getting their views. Seriously, that's what they
I ask you this, Dr. Shiva, what is in your opinion, what is the point of this limited hangout? What is it designed to do? This slow dissemination of information that people who are in the fringes, who would be considered conspiracy theorists, already believe they have a firm grasp on. But now, fast forward a couple of years down the line, these things are allowed to come to light, but they're allowed to come to light through they're permitted through certain mouthpieces and only on a slow drip. What is the point of that?
You see this a lot through comedy as well.
So let me just correct you on a couple of theory there, right? First of all, they did not expect me to run for an office for Senate, an engineer, a guy from below. I should have been co-opted a long time ago, right? So that is sort of a wrench in their entire thinking, right? So number two, when we discovered this, we went direct, and there was a period in 2020 when the censors had not caught up. We got it out. But the reason, there's two answers to your question. First of all, why did they not, and it's related, why did they not highlight what we did? Why did Tucker Carlson and Glenn Greenwald, who's part of all this, okay, did not highlight what we did? 2 reasons. A, they know I am not a house nigger, okay? I'm off the fucking plantation. No, we should use that word, by the way. It's a very important, we are all niggas on the white liberal plantation. Everyone should use that word and should train their kids to use that. It is not a black world or the white world. We have black, white.
It's actually the only word my kid knows.
Right. It's a very important word. Okay, so we're all slaves. Some of us have chosen to get off the plantation. Now, so I don't owe shit to anyone. You can look at my entire history. I fought the Indian government. I could have been co-opted in Hollywood, co-opted at MIT. I didn't. So they say, fuck, this guy's off the plantation. Okay, he's fled us. We cannot give him any publicity, because if we do, more people are going to come to him. Joe Rogan intentionally concealed our stuff. All of these guys did. However, if you now realize that they also they know the truth is going to come out. So in December of 2022, when I was put back on Twitter, Musk thought I would bow down to him. And the day he put me back on Twitter, my question to him was, will you make me your CEO? You claim you're for free speech. That got around 20 million views. You can go see it. And then I said, Elon, are you going to remove the backdoor portal to Twitter? Clayton Morris asked him in an open Twitter space, hey, Dr. Shiva, expose the entire backdoor portal into Twitter in 2020. How do you conform that to your position on being a free speech absolutist? And he acted like a fucking dummy. He goes, ooh, that sounds like Big Brother. I'll get back to you. And he never did. So the point is, they knew that I'm still here, right? And I still exist. So what the fuck do we do? So then they did Twitter Files, which was a limited hangout released to what I did. Then Tucker Carlson puts Lee Fang on. And The Intercept is a total limited hangout institution run by Pierre Omidyar, who's the one who created the backdoor portal to Twitter. He's the one who funded it. It's in that diagram. And Lee Fang, another fucker, doesn't even, he puts this breaking story. Oh, we found the backdoor portal to Twitter, which is basically a small plagiarism of my lawsuit. All right. So they did the drip, but the reason they do the drip, to answer your question, is they must make the house slaves always think the swarm is going to save them. You see, in the old days, they used to just shoot people, right? Open fascism. People rose up, we just execute you. Then they realized, shit, we can't do that because we're creating martyrs. And we don't want to create martyrs. We don't want to create heroes for them. We don't want to create Malcolm X's. So they said, what we're going to do now is we're going to create fake Malcolm X's. We're going to create fake martyrs. Booby fucking Kennedy, Bernie fucking Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, a warmonger. That's what she really is, right?
George Floyd.
Trump is the biggest fucker of the white working class in this country. I mean, go look at WWE shit he's doing with Vince McMahon and just transport that to what the fuck he does with this election. It's the same thing, right? So they've created a whole, league of these fake martyrs, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and they say after the shit has hit the fan, after the house is burned down, then they'll talk stuff. And the goal of that is to keep people stuck to them. And this is why the science of systems is so important, because they're like those dumb kids who didn't get enough food between 0 to 3. So you have a bunch of dumb people who didn't understand, they didn't get the knowledge of this dynamics of manipulation. And without that knowledge, people will always go one day. I mean, 60% of people who voted for Obama then voted for Trump. And then they'll vote for Tulsi Gabbard and they'll push Booby or they'll push fucker Carlson, you see? So they have it down to a science because talk is cheap, right? And they've confused people to think if you say enough good things that you must be a good person, right? When you look at these people's entire trajectories, they've done everything always for the establishment.
It also
Go ahead,
enables it enables the vitriol amongst the population to decrease, because if they go, it's so obvious, I'm being lied to. I've spent years. They locked me down. They forced this thing in my body. They made it so that I couldn't work. They masked my kid. My kid's now suicidal and thinking that they're transgender. Well, but now here comes Tucker Carlson and he says, you're right. Everything they did to you was wrong. Are we going to do anything to fix it? No, we're not. But you're right. And that's enough for a lot of people just to feel as if there is someone who's fighting for them, even if they're not.
Yeah, there's
the famous 33rd degree Freemason author of the book Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike, who's famously quoted as saying, when the people are in need of a hero, we shall provide one for them. Mm-hmm. And so this is, one of those other systems. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It works well. It's been around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is you guys know about this in the mid '60s. The CIA did a lot of work with mammals and animals, very gross experiments, with particularly dogs. This area called learned helplessness, where you guys know this experiment?
No.
So they took groups of dogs. They would put them into a room. So you had one room here and another room next to it, and the dogs were one set of dogs would go in, and the room would be electrocuted. Okay, and the dogs knew to hit a buzzer. When they hit the buzzer, a door would open to let them jump out. Okay, all right. So one set of dogs knew to hit the buzzer, they'd leave. Another set of dogs, when they got the electrocution, no matter how many times they hit the buzzer, nothing happened. Okay. And those dogs were essentially trained to be in learned helplessness. When they put those dogs in the room again and the electrocution started, they didn't even bother hitting the buzzer anymore. Okay. So the frontal lobe of the brain remodels very rapidly, in fact. Okay. So you can actually teach people that, well, you can't do anything. See, fucker said, yep, blah, blah, blah. It's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. See, there's election fraud. That's just the way it is. Right. So this is and you have to look at Fucker Carlson's background. His father ran one of the leading intelligence disinformation agencies in the US government. He wanted to be in the intelligence agency. Most people know 90% of mainstream media is run by the CIA in the United States. So you don't get to be the chief anchor at Fox News without being part of the government. So so this is where the stupidity happens, where people think this guy suddenly left Fox News and now he's working for independently, when, Twitter is completely a government controlled engine, because the backdoor portal to Twitter still exists, as my lawsuit exposed, and Musk has done nothing, because where Elon Musk begins and where government ends, nobody knows. All right. He's wholly dependent on government. Everything he does is essentially an act, right, to keep this facade going, right, to keep this theater going. So if you look over the last 6 months, you will see the creation of this neo-swarm establishment media. Alex Jones, right, Joe Rogan, Fucker Carlson, Elon Musk, Vivek the Snake, right, all these people. The day that Fucker Carlson did that interview with that operative, Mike Benz, who literally wholesale plagiarized my material. Oh my God, Booby Kennedy says this guy should get a National Hero Medal. And all of Booby's people came to our lawsuits in 2020. They know I'm the one who did the work. I mean, it's wholesale stealing. It's totally robbing. But they're absolutely fine with this, because they cannot have the darky from Newark, New Jersey, who got off the plantation, ever get the limelight, because I'm leading an independent movement, because I'm teaching like Caesar in Planet of the Apes for all the other monkeys to, rise up. And they cannot have that. They cannot have that, because, and I wouldn't do it either. I wouldn't put me on any of their shows either, because it'd be deadly to them.
Yeah.
So what happens if you do get put on now?
Put on where?
I don't know. What if what if Tucker Carlson reaches out to you?
He's
Then what happens?
Well, he won't do it. It's going to be over for him. It will have to be live, not pre-recorded. Okay?
Yeah, I do everything live, because I don't like to hide shit from the people.
He won't do it, because people will realize what a fucker he is. And all of his audience, basically, he has taken advantage of the white working class in this country. And that's what him and Trump's role was, to manipulate the white working class. The American white working class is the most powerful group on this planet, but they've been castrated by fucking Trump, by fucking Rogan, by fucking Elon Musk, by all these people claiming that they're right-wingers fighting for them. Because the white American working class is the only group on the planet which has the First and Second Amendments and a number of other rights. And it has been a long policy since the 1800s, started out in Britain, to make sure that the American working class is completely deballed of exercising those rights. And that's what they've been doing. And this is a really, really unfortunate situation. This is why Trump was brought in. If you believe elections are selections, Trump was a selection. And I know, because I was in the middle of all of this shit.
So,
Yep.
Dr. Shiva, let me say something, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
What you're describing, it's like, so obviously we operate in the woo, but what you're describing is a form of like physical alchemy, where if you're actually physically changing the makeup of someone's brain, this is almost magic that we're dealing in. And I don't think the American public looks at what we're doing as like some kind of actual dark magic. You're talking about families, old families, occult knowledge. They know this stuff. It's passed down. And like just I was wearing a shirt that said make 432 hertz great again, because they changed the frequency of music from 432 to 440, because they know that it has some kind of physical alchemical, it can cause an imbalance or maybe manipulate you in a certain way. But saying all that, you have a systems program, and is this systems program sort of like working in the opposite direction? Can you explain what exactly that is as it pertains to?
Yeah, so you're asking a really good question. Look, so the work of Ilya Prigogine, who won the Nobel Prize in physics, he should have, his work doesn't get enough highlight. But so here's been this fundamental question on this question of alchemy, okay? And what you're asking, it's a really cool question. So a lot of people don't know Isaac Newton. He was in two worlds. Isaac Newton, and this in the mid 1600s, he discovered the laws of motion, right? Which he wrote in Principia. What people also don't know, half of Isaac Newton's work was also in mysticism. A lot of his papers got burned. In fact, he did more work in mysticism than he did in classical mechanics. But anyway, when the works of Newton came out, where his works basically used mathematics to describe the motion of objects, right? The motion of particles. Now, the day that Newton presented his work, the same day, the religious priesthood also got even more angry, okay? So you had the real separation of science and religion. And why? Why? Because if you look at Newton's laws, what was he actually saying? If you look at Newton's equations, it predicts that using those equations, you could predict the motion of every planet, right? You could predict the motion of any object or projectile, forward in time, but also backward in time. So what this means is Newton's equations basically reveal that if we live in a mechanistic world, we live in a clock, right? Everything can be predicted. So think about what that means. Using math and using the laws of motion, we could predict things into the future and we could predict things into the past. So let that just settle in. What that means I know exactly where the earth is going to be at a certain point in time, and I know where it was 1,000 years ago. So this really affected the priesthood of the time, because they said, shit, if this is true, we don't have any power, or this is the way they interpreted it. We don't have any power over people because we're saying, there is a God, and your praying to God can change your future, miracles, right? You're bowing down and believing in a higher being. But if Newton's equations are saying everything is predictable and time can be predicted in the past and the future, you have a mechanistic view of the universe. So this separation of science and religion went on for about 300 years. About 200 years. And in the 1800s, when the laws of thermodynamics were uncovered, they said, wait a minute, that everything in the universe goes into the state of disorder. It's not perfectly organized, right? Newton's laws say everything's organized, planets go around suns and all this kind of stuff, right? But the second law of thermodynamics said if I, take this bottle and I put a little blue ink in here, it just disperses to the greatest disorder, right? If someone comes in and opens up a little perfume bottle in that corner of the room, it goes everywhere. The universe actually likes to go to disorder. And so this became a big contradiction. If the universe likes to go to disorder, then why are there all this organization when you look out, right? Why is there a human being? Because if the second law is true and entropy, maximizes itself, there should be nothing. So a guy called Boltzmann tried to answer this, and he was sort of poo-pooed. It was only 1957 that Prigogine's work found some fascinating stuff in physical chemistry, where they would see these random chemical reactions taking place, and suddenly, out of randomness would come beautiful order, and then would go to randomness again, and other types of beautiful patterns. So what was concluded was that in the natural state, there's infinite disorder, okay, chaos, right? That's a natural state of the universe. And under certain conditions, we have these systems that emerge, what we call ordered universes, like a mechanistic world. Now, why is this important? This means that if you look at the mechanistic path, where does that lead to? That leads to a world thinking, oh, this whole thing's a simulation. I can create robots. I can control people. I can gather enough data. I can predict what Clint's going to think tomorrow, what you're going to buy tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? The mechanistic view basically says that everything is pre-ordered. I just need to gather enough data, and I could predict the next thing Dr. Shiva will say tomorrow. Okay? Now that goes against a different concept. What if a human being is not part of that mechanistic world, but their thoughts, their free will, can move the universe into a state of consciousness where you create self-organizing systems? So when one monkey figures this shit out, wait a minute, I understand how this systems works. I understand the 9 principles of all systems, which you learn in engineering control system theory. Then you become an unpredictive force. This is why I was able to predict what Booby Kennedy was about, what Trump was about years ago, because you're using these physical principles. It's so obvious. And now if you start passing on that consciousness to others, that is something that they did not predict, you see? So what emerges is what's called a self-organizing system. That means individuals who raise their consciousness. It's like the 100 monkey thing, right? One monkey in one island figures out how to crack the coconut. Another one, they don't know how, learns it. Now in physics, we know that particles communicate with each other. They don't know how. So there's something else going on here. And now the elites in the 50s and 60s, they learned the science of systems and they kept it to themselves. If you want to talk about the alchemy, and I used to teach system science at MIT. George Soros is one of the leaders in system science on reflexivity theory. All of the elites that I talk about in the swarm know the science of systems. They do not want us to be self-organizing systems. This fucks it all up. And that's
you become less predictable.
Predictable, but
this is why they came down on the J6ers like an anvil, because like they're running these psychological operations. They're supposed to have already imbued in us learned helplessness, as you described it earlier. And if we suddenly act as if we aren't helpless, well then they will demonstrate, oh yeah, hey, by the way, the state still has teeth. Like don't get it twisted. We've been allowing you to think that you're real boys, but we'll show you that you're puppets too.
It's interesting that you say that. If only we act like, we don't even have to actually be self-sustaining or like unpredictable. If only you act like, then the system crashes. That's how fragile it is, and that's why you see so much control. Like the whole COVID thing was, it just feels like they're getting towards the end of it, because their reactions to what people are doing have become obvious and like overdrawn in a way.
I think that the protocols that they utilize are entropic. Like they are actually deteriorating, because as it becomes more and more painful for the people that are living under this system, it becomes less and less tenable for them to permit it to continue, which is why I think it's fascinating. You'll see these parents who, like that one bitch that was saying she's got 2 trans kids at home, that was going viral on the internet yesterday. And you're like, oh yeah, you're never waking up. In fact, you are part of the destruction of civilization. But then you see these other mothers at parent teacher conferences that are fucking flipping out, and they're ready to burn shit down. And I'm like, this is the divide amongst the people now. It's like those that are rising up and those that will literally never rise, like the actual slave class. What's funny about it is that the slave class is completely convinced of their superiority. They think that they are actually they're the brilliant ones because they listen to whatever fucking Rachel Maddow or Tucker Carlson, for that matter, says and internalize it and can puppet and repeat it. But in reality, I think that the true hope, if there is any hope, is the people that are starting to actually fight back.
Shout out to Michael Malice, who I don't really watch anymore, but he always points out these people are not impressive.
Oh, and they're like so unimpressive, bro, dude. Yeah. Especially now that I've interviewed so many high profile people, and certainly some of them are impressive, but the vast majority of people that I interact with like really highly acclaimed folks, and you're just like, I had a congressional representative on my show last week, and I was like, this lady's like 85 IQ. Like, honest to God, it's crazy.
Well, one of the things I think you cannot underestimate is the following. You say in engineering system science, there are these 9 principles that came out that are used in every modern system. The elites know this quite well, so don't underestimate them. You say there is a thinking, it's sort of a magical thinking, which thinks that one day things are going to get really bad, and then the masses will rise up. You see what I'm saying? That if you oppress people enough, they'll rise up. And this used to be a thinking that revolutionary leaders had in the 1900s, and it turns out it's not true. It turns out that the more you oppress people, oppression leads to greatest oppression. It's not true that if you suppress people, they rise up. So the reality is that there are periods in history where you have a chance to sit back and actually study and learn and mobilize people, really understand the physics of what's going on. And that's when movements occur. Because
so what is it that makes people finally rise? Obviously, it has happened historically.
Well, yeah,
it sounds like you're going there. So go ahead.
Yeah. So Clint, so what happens is, again, it gets back to fundamental understanding of what I call system science. And this is why the elites do not want us to learn this. Look, I used to teach this to PhD students at MIT. And I realized that this fundamental knowledge, as I keep explaining, is as important as getting the right food to eat. Because what this knowledge reveals is this concept of a self-organizing system. And the self-organizing system, so let me give you the experiment, and I'll come back to this. If you guys were looking into a fishbowl, imagine you're looking into a fishbowl, and into that fishbowl, and let's say there's a fan below, so if I put stuff in there, they should be blowing around, but containing that fishbowl. Imagine I put a bunch of white little ping pong balls, and you're outside that fishbowl, and lots of ping pong balls, millions of them. What color would you see? You would see white, right? Because all those ping pong balls are moving around randomly. Now imagine I cleaned it out and I put in black balls. What would you see? A beautiful black, all black, right? What would happen if I suddenly put in half black, half white ping pong balls? You would think you'd see gray, right? Because they're going to be randomly mixed. That's entropy.
Pixelated.
Right?
Yeah.
Pixelated, about a gray color. So in these experiments called chemical clocks, what they uncovered was under certain conditions, suddenly the entire screen that you were looking at would become bands of black, white, black, white, black, white, which shouldn't occur. It should be random, and it would hold. And then, or black, white this way, or different patterns that are very ordered patterns. And the conclusion was, this is what's called a self-organizing system. So under the right conditions, with the right communication, what's called a system emerges, which has order to it. All right. So this is what Pergroni discovered. The simple example is if you take a pot of water or a pot of oil, don't do this, right? And you start heating it, first it'll look like random bubbles, and at a certain temperature, it'll form into these beautiful patterns, a self-organizing system. And then at another temperature, it'll go into randomness and it'll form again. So out of chaos comes order. So
that's like the theory of somatics. It's like a vibration on a
yes.
plate with sand.
Yeah. So there are. So the reality is that how these molecules communicate. That's what the physicists say. They're communicating. So to your question, Clint, is one individual who raises their consciousness and becomes the observer of all of this illusion, becomes a very powerful being, because you're able to see things as they truly are. And that is the science of systems. Now, if one person learns that, Clint, and another person learns it, and another person learns it, we will create a self-organizing system, which I'm not going to predict. The old model of change was a bunch of band of guerrilla warriors got together, and they said, we're going to go take up arms, we're going to fight. It was still a top-down model. You see what I'm saying? But in this model, we're talking about raising people's consciousness to the observed understanding of this manipulation that takes place, the physics of it. And my view is if enough people learn it, there will be a new system that emerges that we can't even predict what that is.
Sure.
But for me to try to go, people say, well, why are you teaching this? Why do you want to, what's your end goal? I said, I don't have an end goal. The goal is to raise consciousness, because then you get caught up in that old trap of me trying to manipulate a world to create the utopia that I think is right. which
Right.
ends up in fascism.
You don't want to be the technocrat. You want to end the
It's-
technocracy.
Yes,
It's
you want to
interesting
give
that you say
people
that.
the So in many ancient meditation techniques, the ultimate idea of meditation is when you either repeat a mantra or you're sitting observing the breath. Whatever you, there's many techniques. You're trying to become the observer, and you're trying to observe yourself. So you see things as they are. So when you see things as they are, that is a very different state. And what we are trying to do is to say, look, over here is this world you're fucking seeing in the political world, and you have to apply it to politics, okay? Because it's a wonderful place to learn a lot. Booby Kennedy, all these people, these are all characters, and their job is to sucker you in. They're the disturbances, we say, in system science. So you go off your goal. There are 9 principles in system science. A goal, the inputs, outputs, the concept of movement of energy, transport, the conversion of energy, and then the storage of energy, and then the ability for you to sense it and redirect it, okay? The elites know how to do that. They have a very clear goal: power, profit, control. And they have a disturbance that they put to us to always keep us in their plantation. Once you understand this dynamic, you just see it so obvious.
Yeah.
They have no intention of us pursuing our goal, which is truth, freedom, health. Their goal is to maximize power, maximize control. So how do we get out of this? We have to become observant of this process,
right?
This systemic process.
It's an education and then a kind of a self-enlightenment process. Quick question for you. Do you have any theoretical understanding or an answer as to how these particles are communicating and what is this God consciousness? Like, what do you think it is?
I don't know, man. It's a really cool thing. I wish I had more time to explore it, but it's you're asking a very central question, Clint. So there is communication among particles. So in engineering systems theory, there are 3 types of phenomenon: information, matter, and energy. Now, Claude Shannon, the great information theorist, said information, so information, matter, and energy. He related information to energy, which he said information is negative entropy. Okay? Einstein, integrated energy and matter equals mc squared, right? In the ancient Indian systems, yogic systems, right? They had the concept of unmanifest energy, which is basically nothingness, and out of that a thought emerges, information, and that thought through energy materializes everything you see here, right? So it's obvious thought, which I don't think we fully understand what thought is.
Question for you, Doctor. Do you think any of our thoughts are our own? We spoke with licensed psychotherapist Jeremy Rosinski. He thinks that they're entities. Whether you're vibrating on a certain level, whatever entities reach you is where you get these ideas. What do you think?
Well, you're asking a very profound question. Look, if you have spent some time in different types of meditative exercises, you will realize that as you're sitting there, you have all these thoughts come, all these distractions. And at a certain point, you see yourself being the eternal observer. Okay? I am that I am. All right? That thing, right? That's, so this is a very important point. What is that eternal observer? And is that eternal observer one mind, you say? But you do realize in different parts of your life that certain thoughts you get may be downloads, right? Or may be coming from a different point, okay, of consciousness. Many of the ideas that I have gotten have come at typically 3 a.m. The creation of cytosol, the creation of
the witching hour.
Yeah. You see these things. You visualize these things. I learned at a very, very young age. My great grandfather taught me how to meditate when I went back to India when I was 12. And you learned how to observe the mind and visualize things. And these are very, very powerful techniques. Now, the problem is these techniques can be used for black magic because you can visualize certain things and you can materialize pretty much anything you want. You realize that you are a walking atom bomb. And by the time I was 15, 16, I could pretty much materialize anything I wanted. And we could have a longer discussion on this. So by the time I was 17, I started realizing, wow, we could do pretty much anything we want. And I went into an interesting state, not of of deep reflection, wanting to wonder why. If I could do this, what should I do? Because you could do anything you want. Is a goal to make a bunch of money? Is it goal is to have immense, right? And I realized that so you have to use these powers from a realm of, you can take a position of, you can use them for great good or great darkness.
Yep.
So you have to do this self-reflection to understand where do you want to use it. So you have books like The Secret or Anthony Robbins or all these techniques. Now, these are powerful techniques, but they don't give people the value system on why you should use these techniques. Now, in ancient systems of yoga, when, between the age of 0 to 12, your parents brought you up, and they let you be mischievous, etc., be a child. But at the age of 12, you were typically given to a teacher, like a Jedi master. And that teacher job was to, make you a whole human being. And it was an interesting model. The reason they did this was because they didn't want the parents also having to be the teacher, and kids always seem to hate their parents, right? So the parents never seem to get they end up getting the worst of both worlds. But the teacher's job was to make you a whole human being. Now, what's interesting is during that period, they didn't teach you meditation and yoga and karate, right? It was more, they taught you to work hard, to have disciplines, right? To show up on time, to keep your bed clean, right? All this kind of basic shit, to serve other human beings, to be respectful. After many, many years of training, a decade of training, then within a few seconds, the master would transmit to you the knowledge of yoga and meditation. It was the end of a process. You see, they wanted to see, were you a good, kind human being? Now it's all fucking flipped. All these new age people, I'm going to teach you yoga and meditation, come here. And then you're producing these narcissist yoga Nazis if you see them. So we flipped the model. So people are going and learning these methods without having the moral integrity to be good human beings, how they use them. So you do have, getting back to your question on alchemy, you have people who use these methods for great, great evil because they don't have any moral fiber where it came from. So the goal of a real teacher was to develop you to see, were you a good human being? Would you help somebody, right? He would give you tasks to do. Would you work hard, right? Would you be persistent in getting a job done? Would you give up in the middle? Would you be disciplined, right? All these things were built in. And then you were taught yoga and meditation. Yoga and meditation were the end of a process, not the beginning.
Right.
It was like wax on,
Dr.
wax
Shiva,
off from Karate Kid.
Real quick, I got to tell a quick story because I discovered meditation in my mid-20s, and as you guys know, by the time I was in my early 30s, I was a millionaire. And the reason that I wasn't using meditation for that purpose, but what I realized through the meditation process is that this is also the reason that Tony Robbins talks about goal setting and writing down your goals. And this is why so many people talk about that. It's like, to me, when you're in a meditative state and you're in that observer mode, that's the only time that you're really you. The rest of the time when my body is actually like going and doing things throughout the day, and I have all of these these thoughts that are just popping up over and over again, I'm basically out of control. I'm like a robot, and I'm just going. I'm just like an automaton. I'm just going. But in this meditative state, and once you realize that, and then you set these goals, and most importantly, if you've been raised right and you have moral character and these traits that have been imbued in you through your parents or whatever aspects of your life, well, once you have these goals set, your day-to-day behavior, where you're not really consciously thinking about it, just draws you in that trajectory. And I think that's why I've been successful in basically everything I've done, is that once I set these goals, I'm very singular minded, and they just stick with me. And like everything I do throughout the day, constantly, I'm just going. And it's not tiresome. It doesn't absorb much of my energy. I just go. But I think that there's huge value in that. And this is why people always say, write down your goals, but there's more to it than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, cause
you build a system. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm of the same mindset. Like, actually it's funny how like your entire, what you're doing here kind of, I mean, that's kind of why I'm here. I listened to you. I was driving a truck one day, and as things get worse and worse, I just decided like, I'm going to go and move off. I wasn't even doing any kind of social media stuff. And basically from like influences like yours and others, I've kind of just decided to go off and be my own person, quit a state job that I had, open my own business. And it's like it is like there's a form of systems, but there's also a form of influence that you're talking about. Like there's this like subconscious manipulation or conscious manipulation that you're doing to wake up another person.
Yep.
And now my goal, I guess, is I'm doing the same shit, but with like
exactly.
what I'm good at.
This is exactly what Dr. Shiva's plan is essentially, is that to replace the technocracy, but allow, like, inspire enough people to have elevated consciousness. And the fact that I could help you on that journey is incredible. Obviously, I had no idea that I was doing that when I was just screaming into a microphone. But I think that's what we need more of, is like, and what's cool about it is, like, you don't know the exponential consequence of that. Like, because I did it, now I have, I don't know how many, dozens, hundreds of people that are doing the same thing. And that's where you can make a real change in the entire overarching system versus just kind of having an individual life that's one of satisfaction.
Can I share something with you guys?
Please.
Absolutely.
Can I do that on this screen here?
Yeah, you can share. You can present, and then I'll bring it up.
Yeah, let me present here.
I'll be right back.
This will give you some context here. Can you guys see this?
Yep. It's very small, but yeah, we can see it.
Okay. I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Let me bring it up for our viewers here. Okay. So the reason I wanted to bring this up to you is that it's very pertinent to our discussion. You see, when I was growing up, my grandmother practiced an ancient system of Indian medicine and yoga. Okay. It was called Siddha. All right. Siddha means enlightened. Ayurveda is a modern thing, but Siddha included all the yoga systems, of martial arts, etc. And I saw her, heal people using this ancient system of medicine where she would observe people's face, right? Do all these techniques. And then when I went through my MIT, education, I learned control system science. And it was many years later, in 2008, 9, when I went back to India, I had a big aha moment, and I realized that all these ancient systems of yoga and medicine were actually related to engineering system science. So I discovered the missing link. And so so this paper is a very interesting paper because I don't write a lot of papers, but this was written, I published in the Journal of Systems Engineering. But the paper really begins with looking at the history of Western medicine. Okay. I'll just give you, as I scroll through this. So the history of Western medicine really comes out of wartime medicine, very reductionist, about putting a soldier back on the field, right? So it was good for that, but it was, someone's heart is, something happened, or his lungs are perforated, you got to get him back, right? So Western medicine, that was really the modern healthcare system. We created pharmaceuticals, drugs, etc. The paper discusses that. Now that's called reductionism, where you look at a whole system. You don't look at the whole system, but you look at the parts. Now, the field of systems biology really came out in 2003. Western medicine said, shit, this is not working. Look at what the healthcare costs are, right? We spend more and more money on R&D, less and less even drugs are being found. So systems biology was a field that I went back to MIT to study. And systems biology has this view of the body, right? You have genes and proteins and mRNA and, but basically you build up the body from understanding genes and proteins. So people spend millions of years, man hours, you win a Nobel Prize for figuring out a structure of a protein, right? So we're trying to figure out the whole organism by understanding the parts. Now, so this paper discussed that. And then what I did in this paper was I said, look, let's go to engineering systems theory. Now, if you take an engineering systems course at MIT, they will first teach you what's called a dumb system, input and an output. The movement of information, matter, and energy, which is called transport, the conversion, and the storage. You eat something, it moves through your bowels, your digestive system, your stomach converts it, and then the fats are stored in you. This is called the dumb system. All right. The establishment wants to make you a dumb system. Watch this ad, go do this action, by the way. Now, an intelligent system has these other components. You have a goal that you have decided, or someone has decided for you, or in conjunction. You want to make the output of this system achieve this goal. So you're observing what's going on, and then you make decisions. This is your mind. You decide, hey, I'm going to take these inputs into my body. So anyway, I'm not going to go into this, but this is what's called a modern control system. And all of this is occurring in the terms of a disturbance. The elites have very specific goals: maximize power, profit, and control, As I said in the swarm video, they're watching which way things are going, and then they put more inputs to keep people fat, dumb, and happy. Now, this is what's called the engineering control systems view. This is why we have everything in the modern world. Now, what I did was I went back, and so by the way, these are those systems. If you go back into ancient systems of Indian medicine, 5,000 years ago, these rishis, these teachers, they didn't look at the body like this, right? They didn't have, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe they had the understanding of energy, but they didn't see the body like this, which is what we do. They saw the body in a very different way. And so in this paper, I teach people what are the ancient systems of Indian medicine, okay? And they saw the body coming out of nothing, you know, I'm not going to, but essentially there's a whole language that they developed. It turns out what I uncovered was they have, essentially I reformulated this into the concept of karma, which you may have heard of. Karma doesn't mean something in the past life, it means right action. There's another word called karma phal, which means the fruits of action. So when you look at this, you have, when my grandmother would look at your face or your body or take your pulse, she was trying to figure out how much vata, pitta, and kapha you had. And if you ask most of these Ayurvedic healers, they can't explain it. What I uncovered was vata, pitta, and kapha are same as transport, conversion, and storage. And in their worldview, you met with your master, you came up with your goal. The manas were your decision-making capabilities, the indriyas were your sensor, and the vikaras were your disturbance. Bottom line is what I'd uncovered was that these ancient systems of yogic systems are the same as modern control systems theory. This is what I call the Rosetta Stone. And so when I came back to MIT, I taught this for many years. And this is what I believe is the foundations of modern system science. Anyone who understands, first of all, this is the missing link between all the woo-woo stuff people talk about and modern control systems. So all these yoga practitioners, you guys ran an ad for detoxification, right? All these systems are processes of either transport, conversion, or storage. And so you can look at anything in the universe and you can decide how that affects your body, right? Does it affect the force of transport, conversion, storage? Anyway, you can apply this to politics. Truth, freedom, health is transport, conversion, storage, vata, pitta, kapha. So this knowledge that I was fortunately able to uncover really gives people a disciplined way to understand system science. So,
Dr. Shiva,
yeah,
I want to actually mention something to you, but we do have a quick ad from our sponsor, but I'm going to bring up something about the karmic system. And I know Dave, I see David squirming to say it, but just a minute, and then we're going to get right into that.
Yeah.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a...
Wrong ad.
Today's episode is brought to you by Nado Shave Co. Big Shave has been psyoping the American people for decades with their multi-blade razor scam. Eliminate razor burn, irritation, and ingrown hairs caused by deep penetrating multi-blade cartridges. You don't need expensive plastic replacement cartridges. Nado Shave Co. supplies you with a single stainless steel blade like your grandfather used to use. High quality razor blades for a precise and clean shave.
Millions of
The
people suffer
chrome-plated
every day
Swedish
from
stainless
painful
steel
discomfort and
blades
swelling,
made of
but
electroplated
most pain
brass.
medications
The
come with
twist-to-open
harsh side
handle
effects,
found in our
and
traditional
many
safety
alternative
razors make
supplements
changing
have
blades
little
a snap.
scientific
Whether you're
backing.
shaving your
That's
entire
why
face or
we at
just edging with your
Cytosolve
beard, our
created
single blade provides a
MV25.
barber-grade shave for a
MV25 was
fraction of the price.
formulated
Our
using the
standard issue
Cytosolve
includes one
computational
traditional
systems
safety
biology
razor and a
platform,
box of
a
100
technology for
stainless steel
precision
razor
and
blades,
personalized
plastic-free,
health
100%
invented by
recyclable, and
Dr.SHIVA
$75
during his
allows you to
doctoral
shave for
research
an
at
entire
MIT.
year. And for
This
those
formulation
who like
is
a
the
brand new
result
blade
of
for
computing
each shave,
trillions of
sign up for
potential
our
combinations
Quarter Shave Club.
of
Members receive a
biomolecular
major
interactions
discount and pay
derived from
25
thousands
cents
of
per shave.
peer-reviewed
Take
scientific
down Big
papers
Shave and visit
published across 4 decades by 68 research institutions to discover an optimal synergy of compounds that downregulate biomarkers of discomfort and normal swelling.
Hi, I'm Barbara Ann. My hands would cramp up so that I couldn't hold cards or knit or crochet, and they would go like
Before you ask
that.
the karma question, can I make
And
a
I'd
really
have to
quick one?
use this
Go ahead.
when
I
I
gotta
played
remember.
cards
Go
with my
Just super
grandkids,
fast.
and I'd start
To me,
taking that
what he was just describing, that basically
MV25. After a bit,
science
I
couldn't
was able.
answer what is the placebo effect. It was basically it was the scientification of woo, where they're just like, but what it really tells you is that the mind is extraordinarily powerful. Just the belief that taking this pill that in fact isn't doing anything for you or not even taking the pill, just fucking taking a sugar pill, but still having the same outcome as the pill that allegedly is efficacious. I think that answers a lot. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, somebody that we talked to that says that they're in contact with entities had explained to us at one point about the karmic system. David, you probably can tell it better than me.
So we communicate with a lot of potentially schizophrenic people, which we've come to terms with is not necessarily the medical diagnosis that it seems to be. But one of the people that we communicate with says that they were in a sort of quid pro quo with an entity. And I'm kicking the door open on woo woo real hard here. We're gonna go to some strange places very soon. I'm very excited about it. At the 1 hour mark, it's time to get weird. But what ends up happening is he communicates with this entity. This entity gets to essentially loosh off of his emotions, and in return, he gets to ask some questions. Now, I'm not saying that you should believe this gentleman, but one of the things he says was conveyed to him by this entity is that the karmic system was actually a system created by the angels, that God commissioned the angels to create this system. And for that reason, that it's not created by God, it's actually an imperfect system and is essentially backed up right now. But as well as getting your thoughts on that, I really want to, I'm going to push this into a super weird place because we've kind of been tiptoeing around the edges of this, and which is really fantastic in my opinion, because I see we're kind of tiptoeing towards it. And so it's the playing field is ready for this. But when you talk about these concepts of manifestation and meditation, and you say that they can be used for the betterment of people, but also that some people use them for negative things. And you alluded to, I believe you even used the phrase black magic. Now, here in America, we can look around and see this sort of looming Satanism across all spectrums, from media to politics. Jeffrey Epstein's island, for all the terrible things that happened there, was also equipped with a sort of ceremonial temple. Marina Abramovich, who hides her Satanism behind a thin, very thin and transparent veil of artistic expression, has now become the ambassador to Ukraine for the education system, children's education. So politics across even the world stage seems to have this element of Luciferianism or Satanism hiding behind, like I said, a thin veil. And across media, right, we're talking Super Bowl ceremonies, Hollywood constantly inundating us with satanic imagery. There is no shortage of examples that maybe individually,
right?
Yeah, P. Diddy, right? So there's no shortage of examples that maybe individually could be swept away as just happenstance or coincidence or maybe misinterpretation.
But
when you back up,
system.
There is a system, and it's a very demonic system, and it's built up when you take all these anecdotal things and you put them together and you go, well, that's a very compelling body of evidence that there is a force operating behind the scenes. So my question to you isn't necessarily, do you see the force? Because I think in 2024, everybody can see elements of it. My question to you, Dr. Shiva, and I'm very fascinated with the way that you approach things, is what do you make of this element of Satanism or fallen angel sort of fuckery that seems to permeate so many different things that, especially in Western culture, we hold up and we present to the plebs, the slave class of the United States?
Well, if what's interesting is if you look at all different cultures, right, this concept of good and evil has existed, right? And in fact, the archetypes are very, very similar. I'll give you an example. I don't have a picture of this, but in the Christian and the Catholic religion, you have this deity or the archangel Michael, right? And Archangel Michael has two archetypes, right? One is people pray to him for healings, right? If someone's sick, but he's also the god of war in some ways. He's the one who chased, when he was the one who led the army against Lucifer, right? When Lucifer was trying to come up against God, and his staff it's not a trident, but it's a single pointed spear, if you've seen it, right? And his feathers are that of the peacock. All right. So here's a Catholic religion or Christian religion. And you have this very ancient story of the fight of good versus evil and Archangel Michael leading that, right? Now I want to take you to a completely different religion, Hinduism. In Hinduism, there's a story of when the Asuras, the Devas, had taken over the earth. There's and it was Murugan, Karthikeyan, who is the son of Shiva. Shiva has two sons, you know, the elephant god that you've probably seen. The other one, who's not, unfortunately, doesn't receive that much note, but he's the one who also rides on a peacock. He's also known as the god of war and the god of medicine. The story goes that Shiva transmitted the knowledge of medicine to him and the knowledge of, you know, fighting. And he too has a single spear. So it's fascinating. Two different religions, you have these archetypes, which are almost the exact same deities. Who, yeah, I think that's Murugan. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, you got him right there. Yeah, there you go, Murugan. Right. So,
Dr. Shiva, can I also make a point to aid in the picture that you're painting here? Baal is depicted as having this three-pointed short staff. There's 3 points on the top, 3 points on the bottom. You could find images of Zeus holding the exact same thing. Baal was described as the king of storms, and of course Zeus. That's kind of a no-brainer there. So please go on.
Yeah, I got another quick question.
Yeah,
we're talking about Shiva with Dr. Shiva. What the hell is going on with CERN?
Oh, that's a good one. We gotta
someone posted something up with that CERN. I don't know what the background on that is, but you know, obviously
they were doing a mock sacrifice to Shiva.
Is that what they were doing?
Like, they got caught and they were like, it's just a, you know.
Oh, they were
that's
actually
not a ceremony.
Well, no, they were actually doing a sacrifice.
Well, they said
I mean, there's no shortage of that.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that what they said at?
They claim.
But also, it was a mock sacrifice at Bohemian Grove at the foot of the 20-foot tall statue of Minerva. That
like, what
all
the
the
fuck
elites
are you
were
guys doing?
Just a mock sacrifice. No big deal.
Well, look, I mean, I think those in power, they do all sorts of wacky stuff, right? Some of it comes out, some of it probably will never come out, because they can, and they're probably connected to a very, you know, it's going back to what I said earlier. There are very powerful forces that you can use. The issue is for what purpose are you using it for? And so, you know, there's rituals and things that they may be doing. It doesn't seem that outlandish to me. These things have existed in time immemorial, right? In many, many religions, cultures have talked about this. You know, when I grew up in India, my great-grandfather was a farmer, and then he became essentially an ascetic. But he would twice a year, he would do great sadhanas. You know, like, you know how Christ would go into the forest for 40 days and 40 nights, not do those kinds of things. These were penances people did. Now, the theory of this is, if you look at the physical body, that when you put your body, when you're able to overcome significant pain and see beyond the body, you are able to elevate your consciousness. So that's where a lot of these ideas came when people used to do these penances, because you are not your body. So when you meditate and you do certain types of exercises, you actually figure out that you're beyond the physical form, that there's something much, much deeper. So I think many of those kinds of rituals that people do into themselves, right? Like, you know, not eat for 40 days, right? Do certain types of long fasts. They were really emboldened to strengthen the spirit to see beyond the body. So you have that phenomenon going on. And then at the same time, you have the phenomenon people sacrificing other people's lives, which is almost the opposite of that, which is giving all honor to mammon and materialism, you say? And so when I was, you know, in Hollywood for those 3 years, when I was out there, what I noticed was the level of narcissism that were there. And I think the fundamental belief that this world is all material. This is it. And once you take that view, which is a very close, deep relationship with Zionism and Brahmanism and Nazism, the end point you come to is that you are the controllers of the world and everything goes. You can do whatever the hell you want, right? The plebes basically are dumb and we're the smart ones. And that's sort of the consciousness that we're at. And that's why.
Right. What's the Crowleyan expression? Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, which very much is that entire sentiment embodied in a phrase.
Yeah, that pretty much says it. So that's why when you look at Donald Trump, when you really look at his face,
you know that he's got this big smirk, like I'm better and you guys are a bunch of dumb fucks. And if you look at his face when he did that Vince McMahon thing, I don't know if you've seen it, where he's fighting MW. It's the same face that you see when he's talking. It's the same actor. And he knows what he's doing, and he knows his role, and he knows he's manipulating people, and he's making a shitload of money doing that. And you look at Booby Kennedy. The guy doesn't believe 90% of what he says, or 99%. This is a shtick for him. You look at Tulsi Gabbard talk. It does not sound like a real human being speaking. And you should just read people's faces if you get good at it. Yeah,
I agree with the Tulsi Gabbard thing. Do you think that Trump is because to me it seems like he's running again, like his ego was insulted at some point. I agree with you that he is very much like that, like, about himself or his money, but I feel like something's different this time. Am I misreading that?
Yeah, you definitely are. Big time.
Well, what do you say to the people that would argue he can't be controlled up? They're threatening him with 750 years in prison, and they've been spying on him with the FBI and everything. I mean, is this warring elitist factions, or is he truly a hired actor?
Look, guys, go look at his entire history. All right? He's never suffered for anything he's ever had to do. A very good friend of mine, who used to be the head of the director of one of the largest investment firms in the world, used to advise him. And Trump, he's a negative billionaire, talking on the phone, okay? One time he met with him and he goes, "Oh, I don't know if I'm bankrupt." He goes, "Donald, you have $1 billion in assets and you have $2 billion in debt. You're a negative fucking billionaire." Okay? This guy, and then in a second bankruptcy or third or whatever it is, Wilbur Ross, remember him? Is the one who bailed him out. And he got funded by the Rothschilds. You have to understand, look at this guy's history. He has never had to pay for anything. So I find it quite coincidental. He gets a $450 million damages, right? Judgment. And I think next week he's going to make $4 billion from the SPAC that comes through from Truth Social. Just go look at it.
Holy shit.
Is all of this coincidental? And look, I did all the election systems integrity work, man. I busted my balls. All right. Patrick Byrne tried to pay me off, that fucker, because I was going to expose, when I started exposing all this stuff, the real stuff, which takes a lot of work, the flipping of the machines, I had to do all the math. In Arizona, did all the analysis with signature verification, did 2 clinical studies. All right.
You were only speaking once, right? Like, because I remember that it was like a week-long thing.
Yeah. I spoke at Arizona. I was the first one who did the Michigan analysis. And it was November 4th when Mark Meadows called me here. I was doing a seminar here, a talk on systems health. Meadows called me. He got my number. And all my stuff was going viral doing the election system stuff. I was the one who was doing all the math, the MIT PhD. Okay? Long before the grifters again. Meadows called me and he said, "How can we help you?" Because they were trying to hang their coattails onto mine, because all the Trumpers and everyone were like, "Wow, Dr. Shiva is really exposing this shit." And I said, "Mark, give me the data and I will expose the stuff in every state." And this was on November 5th, right after the elections. I remember this vividly. And we had a bunch of witnesses here. And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to get it to you. I'll get it to you on Tuesday." Rona McDaniel's office calls me. Remember, I've never heard from these people. So you hear the White House calling for me, and then you have Rona McDaniel's office. And I said, "Get me the data." And they said, "Okay, we're going to be in front of the servers tomorrow. We're going to get you the data." You see, I have my own data center here. We had created all the analytical tools, stochastic modeling, all sorts of very high-end modeling to show all these very, very important variations. You can see when I did the Michigan analysis, the Arizona analysis, right? So nothing. And then I did a tweet, and you can find it on Twitter. I was realizing, wow, is Trump really, like, it seems like he just wants to ride the election fraud thing to get money. And he had switched from using the tagline voter fraud to election fraud. In Massachusetts, when they stole my election in September, we put out 2 million of these things called election fraud. And I can play you that video, okay? We were exposing all of this at the fundamental level.
So then I put out a tweet, you'll find it, and it said, "Dear Mr. Biden, dear President Trump, do you really want to solve the election fraud issue? I have unequivocal data that will expose." You can find a paraphrase like that. That started, I think it got like 330,000 retweets, something crazy. All right. Eric Trump reaches out to me. So I have the White House calling me, Rona McDaniel, right? And Eric Trump, I have the message. He says, "Yes, Dr. Shiva, we care about this." I go, "Great, get me the data." Now, the Trump organization, right? That's the Trump campaign, has the data, a guy called Alex Cannon. And I said, "Alex, give me the data." Nothing. They sat on it, guys. They did shit. Meanwhile, Trump moved the entire thing to save America, election fraud. They made $500 million. And then the grifters came and took my work and fucked it up, said there's bamboos in the ballots, this fool, Jovan Pulitzer. Okay?
Oh, yeah, I remember that guy.
They took the shit, and this is what they do with disinformation. There's the real stuff, the real science, and they make it into something wackadoodle so the opposition can attack them. So then the real stuff gets hidden. And
But that's the guy.
Lindell was
That
part of
guy.
it.
He was the one that got kind of pushed to the front of, because I remember this, like, now that
Yes.
you're mentioning it.
Yes, and his
Yeah,
name isn't even Jovan Pulitzer. It's Jeffrey Fulia. His name is Jeffrey Fulia.
Stop it.
Crazy.
Stop it.
Philya. And there were real people. I mean, you can't make this shit up.
Yeah,
And then
that's wild.
Lindell would call me, "Oh my God, Dr. Shiva, we got to have you on the cyber symposium." And I was realizing Lindell was just fucking selling pillows off this shit. Every fucking grifter. Okay, here's my code. Jack Posobiec, da-da-da. All these people who are not into election fraud were overnight into election fraud selling fucking pillows.
Yep.
I got to
Look
sell
at
some
it.
T-shirts. We got to get into election.
Hey, quick question for you.
Crazy.
So
But
the
let me just, Clint, I just
Okay.
want to follow this all the
Sure.
way through. So you understand, I was in the middle of all this, okay? So as this stuff goes on, Trump is just printing money talking about election fraud. And then he had this fucking dude, Ali Alexander. You remember this fucker?
yeah,
And
InfoWars.
when I ran in 2018, one of my volunteers was a nutty guy, wanted to bring this guy in, and I looked at him and said, "This guy looks fucking evil." I said,
I
"Get the
thought you
fuck-"
were going to say gay, but yes.
well, whatever, right? And yeah, he was banging Karl Rove, right? This guy, okay? So anyway, so as I'm watching this, remember, I had supported Trump in 2018. You can look at it. I gave him money. I didn't just wear a MAGA hat. I put up thousands of signs for him in the cold, right? And then I saw all this shit, right? And we had hired a bus to go to January 6th, about 100 people ready to go. And then I saw all this shit going on, right? With the 2020. And then I saw Ali Alexander's face running Stop the Steal. I said, "This is fucked up." And that's when I connected all the dots and I realized Trump was just all bullshit. This is a money-making scheme for him. I called off the bus ride. My intuition said something fucked up is going to happen. And a lot of our Trumpers were like, "Oh my God, Dr. Shiva, you're being too paranoid." I said, "No, something's fucked up."
Yeah.
And I did
you were right.
I called it. I probably saved a couple of our people from going to jail.
I would
Okay.
imagine.
So,
Guy,
but let me just
you're-
finish. No, I just hear me out
Yeah.
with this. So the reason I'm telling you this is that you follow this whole thing. We never got the data. I'm the guy who's a fucking MIT guy doing this shit for free, right? The rocket scientist. Why would you not give me the fucking data? Why? In the middle of things when every moment matters. Meanwhile, we're doing the data, finding data wherever we can. Arizona then hires me, right? In fact, they never really paid us any money. And then when I figured out what Pulitzer was about, I did the night I was going to do a video with a bunch of people exposing him, Patrick Byrne calls me and he says, "Oh, Shiva, please don't call out Jovan." And you can go look at Patrick Byrne's history. And he wanted to bribe me with $250,000 not to go out on him. And then suddenly in my bank account, I find a check, which I still have here, somewhere here, show up for $50K. I returned it. All these fucking guys made a shitload of money. Trump made $500 million. Then many months later, and you can go find the videos, Trump is at a big rally and goes, "I want to thank the great computer scientist, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai." Gets my name wrong, okay? Doesn't pronounce it right. And then a few days later, in Massachusetts, a guy is running for governor who was part of the group that stole my election. He endorses him. So I get an invitation from Mar-a-Lago to go visit Trump. Now, most people would have gone and sucked his cock all day. Oh, Trump, Trump, Trump. We wrote a letter back and said, you know, on behalf of our volunteers, we respectfully decline. You just endorsed a motherfucker who stole my election. All right. Subsequent to that, I was in Miami. I get another invitation. We decide to go because all my friends were Trumpers. Oh, Shiva, you're too harsh. You got to get, you know, Trump is a good guy. Maybe when you meet him, you and him will connect. You got to figure out how to work with people. You got to collaborate and all this fucking bullshit. Not everyone's that bad. You know, all this fucking liberal bullshit. Okay. Anyway, so I go. It was a 2-hour meeting in a small room. This woman, Susie Wiles, was coming in and out. You can go look at who she is. She's deep state, runs Ballard Communications. Molly's assistants out there. And it was here and me. And he was trying to justify why he had endorsed that guy. And I was just very quiet. And I said, the guy's a fucking scumbag. I said, why'd you endorse him? That was a conversation I had. It wasn't appeasing him in any way. It was a 2-hour conversation. All throughout that, oh, Dr. Shiva, you're amazing. Thank you so much. You did great work. You're one of the most amazing people. My uncle went to MIT, this kind of shit. But at the end of it, what I saw was an old, tired actor, you know, B-list actor in his room without his makeup on. All right. And Michelle, my partner was with me. She left crying. It was a very weird, interesting experience. You know, he gave us a bunch of...
Are you saying he's like not an impressive person? Because that's really the only person that I would say in our limelight.
I'm saying what I saw was an old, frail old man who looked like a B-list actor who was in his little office, okay, lamenting over his last acting gig, why they didn't pick him up the next time, like his second season wasn't picked up. But more importantly, I felt great sadness leaving that room. Michelle was crying like, what the fuck? This guy has, like, basically realizing that he's a lonely old guy. His fucking daughter and his son-in-law use him. He really has no fucking friends. He really doesn't. Everything is theater.
Yep.
And then as we were leaving, his assistant came running and he said, you know, he wanted to give you this plate, which, you know, he only gives to world leaders, you know? So it was so he asked me throughout that meeting, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? Like, as though, you know, oh, give me this position or give me money or da-da. I said, I don't want anything from you. I said, what is it you want from me? So anyway, a couple of weeks later, I said, you know what? I do want something from him. We need to start an Election Systems Integrity Institute because the quote unquote, the opposition, if you say anything about election fraud, Harvard, MIT will say, oh, everything's fine, everything's fine. I said, I will organize the best rocket scientists and we will also be there, like real deep shit science. And I gave him a proposal. He referred me to an idiot and that was it. You see, but he made $500 million, guys. Where did that fucking money go? Do you guys understand? This is no different than WWE on a grander scale. And the plebes are watching this fucking show. Oh my God, he's being indicted. Oh my God, he's being, okay. I just got a text message. Give me more money. $3,200 right now. Look what they're doing to me.
Yep.
It's fucking selling tickets to WWE, guys.
So do you think he's not running for real for 24?
No, what I'm trying to say is the elites are running it. This is a beauty pageant to figure out who will suck Zionist cock the hardest. And whoever sucks well gets the role. Who will, not only that, whoever will convince the masses that they are not sucking Zionist cock, but working for America, but really sucking Zionist cock. Whoever's the biggest manipulator gets the role. Okay.
Well, I know we're running late on time, so I got to ask a quick question. You've referenced a few times that Brahmanism, Nazism, Zionism being similar to one another. Do you believe that Zionism or Judaism is in fact worship of the devil, Baal? Like what's your assessment as to the faith itself?
Well, I haven't studied Judaism well enough, you know, and I don't like to go into the areas of other people's faith and beliefs. Let me tell you why. I'll tell you why. For this reason, because whenever you attack someone's beliefs, you know what happens? Even the guy who never really believed in his belief,
he gets mad.
Well, no, he gets even more stronger. It's it's like a nail and you hit it with a hammer, it gets hotter, right? So I don't want to take people who weren't even really into Judaism and suddenly because I say something, they're more into Judaism than they never were. But what I can say is this,
okay, about all quote unquote systems of belief in some entity outside where those spiritual things, right? A friend of mine who was her mother was a professor of divinity. She said that, you know, her view was, she was a Christian, was that a religion like Judaism should have died many, many centuries ago. You know, in my view, this is my view now, that's her view. If you look at the teachings of Christ, they're one of redemption, right? The New Testament, right? Of love and things. It's not about this evil, vindictive God who destroys you. And, you know, and a lot of those elements are in Brahmanism, in, you know, in Judaism, etc., right? It is this monolithic God, and there's not really a sense of compassion or love in some deep level, you know? So that I have concerns with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the rituals that not only exist in those religions, some aspects of even Hinduism, some aspects of those religions, you know, they have these things of sacrifices and, you know, all these kinds of stuff that you guys have talked about, right? And they don't seem really anything about advancing the human spirit in a positive way. They seem like they're going to, you know, maintain people in the material world of, you know, this materialism.
The corporeal being. It's
Yeah.
always fascinating to me, any religion that is leading someone into a very, you know, physical space type of mentality. Like that seems wrong. You know, and I'm not even very religious, but like it seems as if you're going to believe in religion, if you're going to believe in God, it ought to be something that makes you aspire to be a better person while you're here, realizing that there is something thereafter, or something that's eternal.
You know, I went to Israel about 2 years ago, and I was invited to one of these to a dinner, and the woman that invited me, her husband had passed away, and he was a guy who was a professor at NYU who made it possible for me to go study, you know, computer science when I was 14 years old, before I created that first email system, Henry Mullish. So she had invited me to give his memorial lecture. Anyway, she had a half son who wore all that gear, the hat, the beard, and all that. So I was sitting with him, and he said, you know, people like you would typically not be invited to have dinner with us. I go, oh, all right. So I'm listening. So he goes, you know, in our religion, there are, you know, we have two souls. You only have one soul. At best, you can be an animal. You have an animal soul, which means the rest of us. He goes, we believe we have two souls, an animal soul and one that can become a higher being. So this is this concept, which I haven't had a chance to follow up because I haven't read any of the.
Look into the Talmud.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
which I thought was, to me, was quite disturbing, actually, because at the heart of that teaching is saying that we're all animals, and people who follow that religion are better because they actually have two souls. So this foundational knowledge that we are lesser beings.
It's a caste system on a religious
yes,
level.
and this is what Nazism is, right? The Aryan race, the Brahmin model. And this is what I'm saying. These are ultimately political ideologies, material political ideologies, which have been done for profit control. I don't think they have anything to do with spirituality. So this is that's why you see Brahmanism, getting back to your original question, the Hindu Brahmins were all out for supporting Israel. You had this snake, Vivek the snake. Oh yeah, we should put Hamas on stakes and da da da. He had to suck Zionist cock big time, right? You know, get under the dress of Laura Loomer. All right, that's what he had to do to prove. You know, it's a pretty horrible thought. Okay, but that's what he had to do, right, to prove himself to, as you guys say, this satanic organization, right? This movement. But that's what you see. But mind you, you know, Trump sucks Zionist cock. Who did he bring into the White House? But I'm telling you, man, he's a clever monkey. And that's why a lot of Trumpers are so fucking confused by him, because he's a clever fucking monkey.
Dr. Shiva, do you see this sort of orchestrated thing happening where Trump is playing the role of the persecuted, maybe the unfairly persecuted? Because this is theater. I believe that at the highest level, politics is theater. That's why it's very difficult to permeate that club, because it's a club of actors. And so there seems to be this role that he's playing of the persecuted, the unfairly persecuted, and that these persecutions will soon pile up to such an obvious degree that even maybe the most staunch of, never Trumper will start to show some sympathy to his plight and kind of come over to his side, and that this is going to be ideally the theater that they want to play out is one of the pendulum swinging back in his favor. Yeah,
me too.
But you even have Jamie Dimon supporting him, okay? Right? You have to understand that the purpose of the establishment, the swarm, is to maximize power, profit, control. Keep your eye on the ball, okay? That's what their goal is. Anything to do that. And you have to just step back and look at what happened in 2016 to 2020. What actually happened? Forget the good feelings or make America great and da-da-da-da-da, okay? What actually happened?
We got locked in our fucking houses.
We got locked in your fucking houses. And who are the two people who promoted them? Fucking Trump and Booby Kennedy. Booby Kennedy has a tweet out there. These lockdowns are good. They will support climate change.
Yep.
Okay? And Trump supported. Who was the only guy who came against lockdowns? Me, with using science. And now there's just a double-blind study clinical paper that came out. I was the one who wrote to Trump, and Marla Maples got the document to him. The White House contacted me. Do this, this, this. Don't fucking lock down. It's fucking ridiculous. Give people vitamin D3, quercetin. Just maybe the people are at high risk. I was the only one who said it in March of 2020. Both those two clowns, who were both deep state organs, both promoted lockdowns. On the medical freedom side, Booby was promoting it. All the yoga people, all the people go into all their fancy stuff. Oh yeah, we need to wear masks. And Jimmy Dore, right? All of those clowns, right? So that's why you got to look at what did they do when the shit was hitting the fan? What did Trump do? He did everything the swarm needed. He brought in John Bolton, Pompeo. I mean, these guys are like fucking as criminals as you can get. Wilbur Ross. And then he said, oh, I had to do it. Bullshit. Where's his big fucking brass balls? You went in there on a mandate.
Where's the art of the deal, Don?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Gone.
So you have
Dr.
to look
Shiva,
at.
Gotta say, I still follow your regimen, man. I mean, vitamin
Yeah,
A, vitamin D.
a double-blind clinical set. I mean, ideally you can get the sun, but if you're a person of color, right, you have a little more melanin in you, you need more vitamin D3. I mean, I still get that video went out to about 500 million people. In India, 200 million people saw it. Vitamin D3 quercetin protocol. I did video after video after video. That was God's work that we did then. What the fuck were they doing? Locking up people, pushing remdesivir. Go look at what he did. Never fired Fauci. Gave Fauci a commendation award 12 hours before he left office. Just look at it. He's laughing his way to the bank and he's saying, you fucking morons. I'm doing everything that you wouldn't want me to do. And you're still wearing my fucking MAGA hat and you're still giving me your money, even though you have $400 in your bank account. You fucking
He's like, I shut your church down and you're going to vote for me again, you dumb fucks.
Exactly.
You're going to buy my golden sneakers, bitch.
That's what I'm trying to say, man. And this is what is so quite astounding to watch. This behavior. And then people looking at Booby Kennedy. We have the video. I believe in full vaccination of all Americans, but I'm going to deliver you safe vaccines. That fucking douchebag chief nerd, his ball sucker, doing that for him. You see, they have all these ball suckers around who are part of the establishment media. That's what's going on, man. And so this is being done right into your face. It's almost like the devil tells you I'm going to fuck you. And you're like, oh, he's not going to fuck me. No, I'm fucking you right now. Oh, wow. I don't think he's fucking me. No, he is fucking you. And he told you he's going to fuck you. Oh, is he really going to fuck me? Yeah, he's doing it right now. It's like, what the fuck? What are you waiting for?
But Trump will use lube. Biden won't use lube. So
to get really woo on you again, last time, the laws of like the spiritual battle say that you have to consent. It's in every demonic possession.
Consent.
Yeah, I've heard about this. It makes sense.
Yep. So he's fucking you, and you gave him permission to fuck you.
Exactly. And I think that's the heart of this whole thing. So the issue is the fucking house niggas want to be house niggas. That's what we're saying. So what the fuck are you? Is all these people? Trump fucked you. If Hillary did what Trump did, Trump is the one who created CISA. Signed it into law November 16, 2018. Unanimous. Everyone supported. Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, token constitutionalists. Everyone voted for creating the backdoor portals. It's all in our face.
Fuck.
So that's why I titled this thing, the first anti-Zionist president. How does that look? That's fucking truly doing God's work. Fucking anti-Zionism.
That must be
Let's
horrifying
go.
for them.
What?
It must be horrifying for them to see that. Just that title. They're like, Jesus Christ, coming after us.
Look, when I was in New Jersey, you guys are from New Jersey, right? The last 3 years, my parents moved to Livingston. Clint, you may want to look up Livingston, New Jersey. Okay. When I came to Livingston, I was really freaked out because, my parents were in Lake Hiawatha. I was, we had a sort of a humble house, and all these kids had so much fucking money. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt sort of embarrassed, but I became, the number one student and the really good athlete. And these fucking Jewish kids would be so upset with me. I remember when I won this math award, true story. My mother had been in a major car accident. It was one of those, things at the end of graduation or something, 8th or 9th grade, I think. I go to the auditorium, the teacher gets up and he goes, typically we give the math award and the science award to 2 kids, but no one even came close to Shiva. And this is a school of 900 kids in the graduating class. Okay. And so he gives this great speech. I go get the award. It was a very somber day because I was thinking about my mom. She was in the ICU. So I'm leaving the auditorium going out. And this Jewish mother comes running up to me and my dad, and she goes, "Your son has done nothing good. My son, Eric, could have won that award this year had he decided to work, but he decided not to." Fucking crazy shit, man. But she was so fucking angry. You see, because the chosen people of God cannot have anyone else competing with them. And that was my life in, Livingston, New Jersey. You see,
and that goes to everything, because just look at Twitter. Once you kind of take away the guardrails of like what's acceptable, what's acceptable as like the mainstream media or even entertainment, you start seeing these Twitter people or like bottom of the barrel YouTube people's like these people are actually impressive and they're making better content. Shane Gillis is a great example of that, of what happened here. He was snuffed from SNL purposefully to make an example, but it's come full circle where they're like, we kind of have to acknowledge this guy because he's just better. So they can't beat you. They have to suppress you. And also you have to submit to it. You have to agree to letting them suppress you.
So that's why, a couple of points before you guys go, because for your audience, that's why, the big elephant in the room, the level of invisibility they do to us, particularly more recently, right? Because they know we're not going to kowtow to anything. We're not going to bow down. So that is why
I'm currently suspended from YouTube, just so everybody knows.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
if you're trusting my credentials.
Yeah, what they do to me, Clint, is a little more interesting. So my followers on Facebook have been 40,000 followers for nearly 3 years. YouTube, whatever, 250, the same. Yeah. When they try to take me off, we wrote a legal letter because I know how to file lawsuits. We have 2 other lawsuits right now in the courts that we're doing against the government. But so their goal is to put me in a digital cage, which is even more interesting, right? So you put you in and you basically don't go anywhere. So that's the model that all of these guys are doing. But what we have understood, my run for president, we have to mobilize 300,000 volunteers all over this country. We got to get on the ballot. I don't have one of these ballot sheets here, right? We have to collect signatures. So in Utah, which is coming up, we need to collect 1,000 signatures. In the middle of the rain and the sleet and the snow, you have to go out in front of grocery stores and you have to collect, by the way, which is allowed by a Supreme Court ruling, which says that during an election cycle, you should be able to stand outside a grocery store, collect signatures. Obviously, you can't harass people because that private property becomes a town square only during that period. Well, when our volunteers go out, the police come, we have to educate the police. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. One of our guys got arrested, an electrician, did nothing wrong, and then we have to file lawsuits. But we actually have volunteers, guys, going on the ground collecting signatures. In California, we'll have to mobilize around 3,000 volunteers. Think about what we have to do actually to do the work. Booby Kennedy goes to a Zionist-funded PAC, and he gets $20 million. And then he pays signature vendors. The DNC and the RNC, I've never seen any of these guys collecting signatures. I'm convinced there's a boiler room where people are writing signatures. We never see them. So what we want people to do is my run for president gives people the opportunity to get their butts off, help us go collect signatures. Why? It really exercises your citizenship muscles because you have to get out there. It's fucking cold. 100 people walk by, maybe one guy signs. Then you have to go out again. And again, it's almost like a spiritual event. And then you collect the signature and you're doing it with other people. It's an opportunity to be individual, but also collective. And in all of this, we're finding out all the other corruption that goes on, you say? And then we'll share that with you guys. But the future, in my view, is offline. So what we're doing is we're literally building a movement. And that movement, if you go to truthfreedomhealth.com, Truth Freedom Health, yeah, that's my main site. But if you go to truthfreedomhealth.com, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's taking all of the stuff I shared with you, the system science, right? And it's combining it with offline activity. So the slogan is get educated, be enslaved. If you just stay there. So the thing that we've done is, if email was a system, right? Cytosolve is a system. Here, the system is a system of education, getting offline, community building. And as you scroll down through this, we have some, there's 2 videos people should go watch, a swarm video. Keep going down. We have some gear if people are interested. Go down. But we have literally created an infrastructure, and it's all independent. We have our own data center, our own computers, own software, but it's an infrastructure to educate people on the same system science that I used to teach at MIT. But we made it accessible to people. And our model is a learn, teach, and serve model. You learn, you teach, and you serve. And we essentially give 90% scholarships to people. And if people really can't afford it, we give it away. And then these are stories of everyday people who go through this program. They learn how to think, they learn how to fight. But our goal is to get people to have their experiences. You say, go hand out a flyer. See how hard it is. Go see if you can look at someone in the eyes. Have a communication with them. And then the thing is, we have a history of winning because we teach people how to file lawsuits, how to fight. You say, how to stand up. Next. But if you go down, the fundamental problem we're solving as you scroll down through this, right here. This is sort of what we've been discussing today. There's shitloads of information out there. But in spite of all the information, it's not like people are getting smarter and better and more truth, more freedom, more health. 750 million people are anxious and depressed. Right now, there's 2.5 billion people on the planet who are obese. In the next about 3 years, it's going to be close to 4 billion people. So in the midst of all these health videos, it's not like people are getting healthier. 40% of people want to overthrow their government. So, and if you scroll down, the reason this is occurring is because of the reductionist knowledge. So you have all this information right there. I call this sort of the pyramid of forces of power, profit, control. It's like you have the actual system, the big elephant, but CNN will give you one piece, right? Fox will give you the other piece. So they literally drive you into illusion. And the goal is either you say, fuck it, I don't care. I'm going to move away into some commune, right? Get my own piece of property, grow my own, sheep, whatever, right? Or you basically get desperate. You take a gun, you start shooting people, or you go into this left or right. As long as you're into any one of those, you're fucked. But those are the 4 buckets that they want to put people into. And as you scroll down, the machinery of all of this, again, we had to make it easy, are not the obvious establishment. Okay, we know Trump. We scroll down a little more. We know Bush, right? I'm sorry. We know Clintons and the Bushes and the Bidens. But these people right here, stop right here, are the real illusions. In ancient systems of yogic science, we called it Maya, the illusion. The people who claim they're fighting for you. The people who talk all this anti-establishment shit. But then all you need to do is look at each one of their histories. Tulsi Gabbard was rabid for going into Iraq after 9/11, rabid for going into fucking up the Palestinians. But what's interesting is all of them, I think all of them unilaterally are Zionist cocksuckers. That's what binds all of them. And then if you go down, the way out of this is, so in the ancient systems of yogic science or traditional wisdom knowledge, that you need to get to knowledge. Knowledge is understanding the whole. Now that requires a system science. Knowledge is not information. Then you get to wisdom, and then you get to clarity, and then you become wanting to do something in the world where you see it yourself as an agent of change. So that's what we've done is it's been a massive effort taking all of that MIT engineering systems knowledge, linking it with ancient systems of yogic science, and making it into a program that anyone can learn. And then we have everyone learn, teach, and serve. And then we get people on the ground. You say? So now we have close to 500,000 people, and we didn't impose a leadership top down. We're letting people come from below. It's very, very merit based. So we have people who are really quiet and they've emerging as good leaders, right? So without this knowledge of system science, getting back to what we started, it is literally like being in a world where you don't have the right food and you're deficient. And this is why people cannot see through Trump. Once you get over Trump, Booby, and fucker Carlson, it's almost like the spiritual quest. And that's what people have to get over. Many people that come to our movement, oh, I was following Booby, I was going to give him a lot of money. And then I saw your video and I had cognitive dissonance for 2 days. And I had to recognize what you said was true. Other people will recognize what I'm saying is true, but getting back to what you said, they're consenting to be abused. They're consenting to be abused. And that's okay. Go fucking get abused. But that's what's happening.
Wow. This has been a crazy episode. Dr. Shiva, thank you for coming on, giving us 2 hours of your time and knocking the socks off of the people. I enjoyed it thoroughly, as I do almost every time I hear you talk. I'm glad that you came on and we did this, man. Any final words from you guys?
Yeah, this is the final. So I have a lot of great podcasters that we have great discussions with, but look, guys, I'm into action. My whole life is about action. This isn't talk. We literally have a campaign we're running. You know, us getting on the ballot, we have a major lawsuit on the naturalized citizens versus natural born. We're arguing that the 14th Amendment, the First Amendment, rules that have every right to run and be president. It's an amazing opportunity for people to participate in our election. When you get involved in our election, people learn a lot. The quality of people we get are the kind of people that you guys would enjoy. Very reflective people from all different backgrounds. So, you know, to the extent you guys want to help us, do that. But it is an active living thing. It's going to be over in 10 months. But our campaign, our movement won't stop. But the things that will come out of this will be quite extraordinary. So, you know, I encourage you guys to get involved. You know, it's nice to be in this environment and talk, but you're in New Jersey. We got to get on the ballot there. You know, Clint, I'm not sure where you are. If you're over.
No, we're all in Florida now.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay.
I'm from New Jersey and I escaped it.
Okay, we got to get, you know how many signatures? We got to get 250,000 signatures. 250,000. And the GOP and the DNC don't have to do that. And I'm convinced the others literally have a boiler room. And Kennedy will just pay people to do that. The whole thing is a scam. We're the only ones actually doing it for real.
Wow, it's brutal.
It's a lot, man. That's just in one state. In California, about 320,000 signatures. In Massachusetts, 20. When you add it all up, it's about 1.6 million signatures. So Booby goes and begs to his Zionist handlers, and he got 15 million, $10 a signature, and he goes and gives signature vendors. But that wasn't the spirit of all of this. You were supposed to have ground support so you could get on the ballot.
Yep.
So I'd appreciate if you guys, you know, shared with people what we're doing. This is a real movement. There's two parts: the movement of truth, freedom, and health, which is educating people across all different backgrounds. We're in all different languages, the knowledge of system science, and then the presidential campaign.
What's the name of that website one more time, Dr. Shiva?
truthfreedomhealth.com. And then everyone should go get a bumper sticker. These bumper stickers, you put them on the back windshield of your car, 100,000 people see it. You get to be your own online advertising vehicle. So do it, right? Because the establishment, we don't expect to give us any publicity. And if you guys want to go ask Fucker or Carlson if you'll do that, challenge them, you know? They won't.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Clint, you should do that. Clint, you guys should host a debate.
What's that?
Invite all of them to a debate. See if they'll show up.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I am not about that action. I am all about talking shit. You can find me on Liberty Lockdown, the best political show. Also Tower Gang, which you should not watch. Well, actually, I guess I am kind of about that action a little bit. I am also running for the vice presidency of the Libertarian Party. But that's really just a talking shit campaign and trying to wake people the fuck up. And we'll see how it goes. So thank you again for the time, Dr. Shiva and gentlemen. It was a pleasure as always. At Liberty Lockpod on X if anybody wants to follow me.
Thank you guys so much, the both of you, for joining us. Guys, don't forget, before we wrap things up, you can head over to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. And if you do that, you'll be able to sign up at the $5 tier and join our Telegram, where we're a bunch of schizophrenic, unhinged people talking about schizophrenic, unhinged ideas in the privacy of our own Telegram. And don't forget, if you're not subscribed on Rumble, go ahead and do that, because guys, we're not long for YouTube.
Not
Top,
after
anything
this
else?
episode.
All right, guys. Be well.
Peace out, guys.
Take care.
Thank
Be well.
you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. That was a interesting discussion I had with some really nice guys. I hope this was valuable. Everyone here, you notice our team put together my background, a lot of Dr. Shiva stuff. We have gear. We have all sorts of good stuff. But get involved in this campaign, because you will grow as a human being. You will learn a lot. Tomorrow or tonight at 7 p.m., there's a very important event where, from a solutions perspective, we're training people how to become systems health educators. And I'll put this up if you guys want to sign up for it's a tutorial I'm doing. There's no cost, but you'll really learn the foundations of how system science affects your body. So if you want to go here, you're welcome to come. It's going to be in a few hours, in fact. But if you go right here to vashiva.com, you'll see it right here. There's an events link right here. And it's this thing right here, Introduction to Systems Health in Your Body, Your System tutorial. I'll put it in the link for everyone, but you're all welcome to come to that. So that's one action you can do. Jason, can you get me a bumper sticker? The other action all of you should do, and as a part of supporting everything we do, is go get a bumper sticker. Go to Shiva #4 president.com. And if you get one of these bumper stickers, you put it on the back windshield of your car, and 100,000, here's Jason's got one. So here's one. So here's one of these bumper stickers, and you put it on the back windshield of your car. 100,000 people will see them. And it's a good way for you to directly, take a position and help the campaign. So go to Shiva #4 president.com and volunteer. And if you want to donate, when you donate, I give you all sorts of books, System and Revolution, Systems Health. You get all sorts of different things, because I really don't like taking anything for nothing. It's not my philosophy. So when you give me stuff, I give you back a ton of stuff. So that's what you should do and get involved. And before I close, I'm going to play for you our campaign video, which will hopefully inspire you not only to get involved in the campaign, but to go to truthfreedomhealth.com and get educated, or you are basically complying to be enslaved, if you followed the conversation today. Who would have ever thought I'd be running for president of the United States of America? I was born a low-caste untouchable in India's caste system, a system of aristocracy, oppression, and racism. My name is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. I'm an MIT PhD, a Fulbright scholar, a scientist, engineer, entrepreneur, and inventor. My family and I left India to come to America on my 7th birthday. I grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of New Jersey, playing baseball, mowing lawns, painting houses, and coding software. My friends and neighbors are blacks, Italians, Irish, people of all races. As a 14-year-old, I wrote 50,000 lines of software code to create the world's first email system, and was awarded the first U.S. copyright for email, recognizing me as its official inventor at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. I did that long before I ever came to MIT, revealing that big innovations can occur anytime, any place, by anybody. Growing up, I saw politicians dividing us by race and religion in both America and India, to have us fighting each other while they remained safe in their gated communities and in their playgrounds of Hollywood, Martha's Vineyard, and Silicon Valley. I'm a fighter. I fought racism and exposed their imperialist wars, fought for workers, and put my life on the line against global corruption. I never wanted to run for political office. All that changed when I saw working Americans as never before being duped by the establishment, and the not-so-obvious establishment. Across left and right, we were being sold out and made to forget why we came to America and why America existed. Lawyers, academics, billionaires, celebrities, and politicians, elites, Clintons, Kennedys, Bidens, Obamas, Bushes, black and white, have hijacked America. They printed trillions for their friends. They delivered crumbling infrastructure, corruption, and racism. They've transferred trillions to themselves, dividing black and white, fear-mongering, and fake science. Lockdowns and censorship, dirty air, food, and water, pushing drugs upon us, making us sicker. We've been sold out. One set of rules for them and another for us. We deserve a warrior with a history of courage in putting everything on the line for you, who believes in you, not them, who has created a movement bottoms up for truth, freedom, health. I've exposed their lies at the right time, never waiting until it was popular. I've exposed their false gods who exist to lead you back to them. I've exposed their fake science of lockdowns and masking and provided you solutions to fight them and win and protect your immune system, saving millions. I exposed Fauci, galvanized the Fire Fauci campaign when others remained silent. When they stole our election, we sued the government and Twitter in our historic 2020 federal lawsuit, exposing in bare view the government and big tech censorship infrastructure, the unholy alliance between government and social media companies. Where was Elon and his grifters? They stood by the sidelines and did nothing. They did not use their megaphones to help us when it could have made a big difference. Now our movement grows for truth, freedom, health, independent of all of them. Every day, millions are learning the science of systems, the knowledge the elites do not want you to have, so you may learn how to think, stand up, and fight, independent of the establishment of left and right and their fake heroes. Now it's time for you to join the movement, to win back America, to win back truth, win back freedom, win back your health. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. This race is about you. This race is about truth, freedom, health versus power, profit, control. We've had enough. They think we'll fall in line and vote again for their lawyers, celebrities, billionaires, and chosen ones from above. We choose our heroes from below, from the rank and file, who do what is right at the right time, not when it's convenient and popular. They can never represent us. What America needs is a movement by the working people, for the working people, who are educated, organized, decentralized, and fight for independence from their systems of control. And that movement exists. It's ready for you. We don't need them. We need us to go bottoms up, neighbor to neighbor. My journey, your journey are all the same. It's our time. It's time we had one of us. It's time to win back truth, freedom, health, to win back America. Be part of this historic movement all the way to our victory on November 5th, 2024. If you're an American citizen, pledge your vote now for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, the independent candidate for U.S. President. No matter where you live, you can be a part of this. Volunteer as little as 20 minutes a day. Don't delay. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, and I approve this message, paid for by Dr. Shiva for President.
All right, everyone. I hope that was valuable. I hope you guys learned a lot. I enjoyed it, and get involved. Go to shivaforpresident.com, go to truthfreedomhealth.com. And again, I just posted again the link to the event that we're hosting tonight that all of you are invited to. You simply have to go up and RSVP. It's very easy. The link is up there. It's tonight at 7 p.m., which is, wow, it's 1 hour from now. All right. Thanks, everyone. Be well, be the light. Thank you.